Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome to a special edition of our daily live broadcast. Every Friday we have decided that we will be holding interviews, or is that what you call this? Not exactly an interview, we'll be holding guest speakers, or guests anyway. And the idea will be to invite a guest who we deem to be interesting to come on our show, our broadcast, and tell us interesting things. Some ideas for the future are people who have meditation centers or monasteries or some organization somewhere that we don't know much about, that we'd like to learn about, and like to allow them, give them an opportunity to plug to us. People who have written things, people who are public speakers. Some in the beginning, I think it'll be a lot more friends. You know, I don't think we'll try too quickly to get famous people, but we'll settle for people who we know and people who we think have something to say or something interesting about them. So tonight, I'm very happy to announce that we have a good friend of mine, Ali Ashtari, who was born in Iran. Tell me if I get any of this wrong. And who I met first when I moved to Winnipeg. He had been following me on YouTube, I think, and when I started teaching in Winnipeg, he came to talk with me and we became friends. And over time we would have talks. He drove me to this evening Visuddhimagga group that was going on with the Tibetan Dharma group, and on the most interesting part of the evening, I think, was the talks we had in the car on the way there and on the way back. We would discuss and debate, and so probably I'll have a few questions for you to see what you think on some topics, but also we'll invite people to. So we're going to give Ali a chance to tell us a little bit about some of the things that he's been working on. I'd like to hear about his practice. I'll try and bring up and ask some questions, that leading questions as they call them. But then everyone in the audience can get involved as well. Ali has been involved in the skeptics community in Winnipeg, and I think in North America he's been involved with the MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction community. And so you might have something to say about them as well. He's been invited to give a TED talk, a TEDx talk, which is sort of the extended arm of TED, which is a group that does a lot of interesting talks, I think. I used to watch some of their talks. He's done self-meditation. He's done meditation with teachers in Winnipeg. Stephen Hicks is one of his teachers. Anyway, hopefully he can tell you a little bit more about himself in that regard. And he's just an all-around great guy. And yes, and I haven't mentioned is he does a YouTube channel, or was, last I checked, doing a YouTube channel called Meditation in Persian, which consists of meditation videos and video instruction on meditation, similar to what I've done, but in Farsi, which is the language of Iran and Persia. And on Facebook, he also has a Facebook page. He's also he used to be somewhat politically involved, and we would have sort of debates about the use of getting involved politically and so on. So that's a little bit about Ali. So Ali, welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here and seeing and talking to you. Like you said, the discussions we had in the car, which was a commute of about 1 hour, were really interesting. And usually like, we debated on different topics, and I would go home, contemplate on them for a few days, and realize that Bante was right. So,
I
but,
wasn't always right. You convinced me more than once or something.
it was good. I had the opportunity to engage very deeply on topics and get pushed by you, Bante, on certain beliefs that I held, which I think once they penetrate through them and realize their empty nature, I think it's very helpful to have your beliefs challenged and kind of like let go of them. Uh, so I started this meditation in Persian YouTube channel when Bante was in Europe. Now the, the Facebook page has over 3,000 subscribers, and the videos mm, have many viewers. I have a lot of questions, but the main challenge I am facing in that is that it's not really possible to have people engage in a serious meditation practice, especially those who live in Iran, because there is no opportunity for meditation retreats or courses.
Right.
And it's also kind of not really legal to talk about other belief systems. If anybody recognizes that you want by any way, your intention is to persuade people to convert from Islam to Buddhism, let's say, your own life is in danger and their lives is in danger.
Right.
It's really you have to follow a very careful path. So I have my own intention has been really uh, to have that channel, those teachings in a strictly secular context, without anything specifically related to Buddhism or any religion. Uh, so so I have introduced that channel and as a secular channel, and the teachings are mostly on the practice of meditation.
Right.
And I haven't been able to really talk about the other aspects of it, such as morality and ethics, which are really very important. I have tried to always present them in the context of meditation and how moral behavior affects your practice. I've also not been able to really talk about the concept of enlightenment
Right.
and the actual goal of it. So that kind of like is maybe probably not totally honest, but that's how I can go forward with that page.
So, about ethics, what is it about ethics exactly that's like a giveaway? Like we might argue that the Buddhist precepts are not really Buddhist. Can you give me a little more detail there? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I can, for example, if I talk specifically about the 5 precepts,
Right.
then
You can't do that.
I have to say why these 5, where do they come from?
Right.
I can like be very general,
Yeah, yeah.
good behavior, like not lying, for example, but I can't really talk about the foundation of it or
Right.
uh, also the other challenge is that time. uh, I'm a doctor of engineering. I work
Right.
in a software company, and I don't really spend as much time as I would like to on this page. And so my communication with the subscribers are limited to emails and messages on Facebook or YouTube, and answering them either by videos or directly. Many people have asked for my phone number, for example,
Yeah.
or wanted to chat with me separately, which I have not responded to them positively.
Mhm.
So, and I don't think I really have a chance. And the most, like the biggest barrier is my own realizations. So, I believe I have still a long way to uh, realize the truth. So, and I do understand that the best way to teach is by example. I always remember this sentence a teacher gave me, that there was this spiritual seeker who wanted to go to see this mystic, and they asked him, so what teaching do you want to hear from him? And he answered that I don't want to hear a teaching. I want to see how he ties his shoes. So it's how and I do really like and think that when it's people's presence and the way they convey the message that is more relevant to the teaching than what you say in words.
Mm.
So I see a very direct connection between how my own practice develops, and how effectively I can teach.
Right.
Uh, so, and in addition to that, I have started taking uh, courses and workshops to become a certified MBSR teacher.
Mhm.
I will I will start my first co-facilitation next week, actually, uh, to teach MBSR, which was how I first learned about meditation. I come from a very religious Islamist country, Iran,
Mhm.
which maybe it's not a good thing. It's not good to describe it as the people. Maybe the people are not like extremely religious, but the government is. So during my child, I came to Canada 10 years ago when I was 25, and before that, I had developed a very strong reaction to anything religious or spiritual because of the problems that religion had created in my country. So I completely dismiss any idea of any idea that was not materialistic specifically. Uh,
Mhm.
so I hold a lot of resistance against it. I used to hold a lot of resistance against it, but obviously that because that's a wrong belief, and any wrong belief leads to suffering. So I was suffering a lot, and
Yeah.
I, I, I out of misery really, I went to these mind MBSI classes they, uh, because again I had read by in a book by Sam Harris, actually, who is a famous atheist, and I really like believed in him as an atheist. And it was the End of Faith book, and the last chapter he talked very positively about the spiritual practice, and I was really surprised, and
Mhm.
actually wanted to check what that actually is, and whether that helps my alleviate my own suffering. I used to be on uh, this, prescriptions for like mental disorders,
Yeah.
and I like it's been like I have been off of them for depression specifically, and I have been off of them for more than 3 years, and I'm like way happier.
Mm-hmm.
It all has to do with how I started this MBSR class, and then I realized
Yeah.
that I was missing the whole time, and and after that I got a lot more involved in meditation practice. I met really good teachers. Uh, I was very fortunate that one day I came to Winnipeg. That time I had the opportunity to actually expose a lot of my beliefs uh, to truth and kind of let go of them, become a lot freer. And then I also worked with a teacher, Matthew Flixton, who who used to be a Theravada monk, and he is. I really enjoy going to the retreats he leads, and also he also holds online courses where we kind of like he sends assignments, we read, we do meditation practices, and I communicate with him weekly or on any time distance we want, and kind of like learn a lot about Buddhism, about spirituality, and also develop our own inner practice.
What
Uh,
do you were involved with the MBSR group, and you had I didn't meet Matthew Flixstein, but I met Stephen Hicks, was it? You
yes.
also did a self retreat. Was that before or after you had taken formal training?
I did the first solo retreat. I have done two. The first one for 17 days, the second one for 14 days. The first one I did was actually I was encouraged by a Tibetan monk who visited Winnipeg for a weekend retreat in 2 years ago. No, actually 3 years ago in September, and when I was discussing with him, he really like pushed me uh, to do a retreat, and he said like, why not? If there is no teacher or anything, you should just go and
Mm-hmm.
make it yourself, and uh, that's how I did my first retreat. Like Lama Jerry
Right.
also visited every 3 4 days, brought me food and like we had interviews. But the second solo retreat I did was completely silent. So I was meditating for 2 weeks, completely isolated, like almost like a cave, except I was not in a cave. And I made food already in the fridge, and so it was quite an experience. It was very interesting. Uh, yeah. On the political aspect of it, I think I am kind of like maybe mostly because of the conditioning in the past. It's kind of like I bounce back and forth, and sometimes I see. I see my involvement in politics really have like both positive and negative uh, aspects, and it's really like how the act starts. It's the quality of the mind when you do that. If it is out of compassion, it's really
Right.
most of it's positive, but it's a lot of time for me uh, is out of anger, and that really leads to
I went. I've been going to Subway recently. Yeah, for food, and the Subway across from McMaster University is run by an Iranian family.
Oh,
And it's funny. I assumed they were from Eastern Europe. I still can't tell accents, but it sounded Eastern European to me. So they started they were talking to each other while they were preparing my sandwich in some language, and I said, "What language are you speaking?" And immediately the woman, she was a middle-aged woman, but immediately you could see her tensing up, like like she didn't want to say where she was from, right? She didn't want, but she admitted it, but it was like an admission, like there was fear you could see.
no,
Uh,
yeah.
and I said, "Oh, awesome! I have a friend who's from," I played it. I said, "I have a friend who's from Iran, and I talked about you and how you're doing meditation videos and how I was helping you make these videos." And they warmed up to me completely. And I went in again just a few days ago, and they treat me like family almost. But I said to them, I said he's often into politics, and her son said, "Oh yes, all Iranians are into politics." That's all they talk about, or something like that.
It's kind of like because it has very strong effects on people's lives. Like it's really like, so 35 years ago, none of this was going on. Like Iran was a secular country, even though it wasn't a democratic country, but there was no force to wear hijab, for example, for women. There was no restrictions on religions, or Sharia law essentially was not governing the country. But after the revolution, everything changed. So imagine that half of the population that didn't have to wear hijab, they all of a sudden, because of politics, have to wear hijab.
Yeah, really.
Like all the rules, everything changed because of politics, and it also has like after that there has been a war. Again, it had to do a lot with politics and how so people are like very. It's a very volatile region, so
Yeah.
it's people are usually into politics. Uh, Yeah, but the reaction, as you were talking about, it's unfortunate, and it's really true for most of the Iranians who live outside of Iran, especially in Western countries, because usually they are stereotyped as, at least the impression the Iranians have is that if we say we are Iranians,
Yeah.
people don't like us, and
For sure.
I usually have to prefer people don't ask me that question until they have talked to me for for a few times and trust me.
You've had this funny experience where people ask you where you're from. You say you're from Iran, and then they say, "Oh, Islam is a good religion," or something like that. And you're like, "No, it's not."
Yeah, exactly. This this thing that is actually a shame, but people mistake it with compassion in the Western countries. So there are a lot of nice, well-meaning people who want to who are against racism and everything, and want to be nice to people like me or people who come from the Middle East, and they believe that if they say Islam is a good religion, they are actually being nice to me, which is actually very offensive.
Funny, because a lot of people who have left Iran are probably in your category where they've ran away from the religion.
Yeah, exactly, and it's funny that I see a lot of this with some prominent Buddhist teachers in the U.S. who call themselves engaged Buddhists, or and talk a lot about compassion, but when they talk about the problems in the Middle East or Muslim countries, they are totally wrong. And this is this is another reason that I kind of feel like not like ignoring the politics is kind of like not very effective a lot of times. At least I need to speak up uh, when like there are not many people in the Buddhist communities in the West who speak English and are from Muslim background. So at least I can try to correct the mistakes.
Yeah, really.
So yeah.
What about the skeptics? Can you tell us a little bit about how are they doing these days?
Hmm.
How's our North American skeptic movement going?
I actually see a lot of similar trend to my own experience because
Okay.
the beliefs they hold is
Tell us
uh,
about your experience with the skeptics, or as a skeptic, or I guess you've already told a little bit, but
yeah what uh, so I guess it depends on we can talk about a little about for one particular example is Greta Christina, who's a famous author in the skeptic atheist community, and she wrote a very famous book called "Why Atheists Are Angry,"
mm-hmm.
and and she kind of justified and encouraged anger
Right.
uh, in that book. Uh, and when you listen to her speak about that 3, 4 years ago, I think her videos are still on YouTube. You could just sense the anger, uneasiness.
Right.
I didn't sense it before, but now I do.
Right.
And so she was talking negatively about like all the religious plus spiritual practices she still does, but uh, more than a year ago, I believe she went to an MBSR class as a
Okay.
and she started to write really positive blog posts about mindfulness meditation, insight meditation, which then like I saw a lot of my skeptic friends come and talk about like wow, like she's talking about
Mm-hmm.
meditation and she talked about how it reduced her stress, her
Mm-hmm.
suffering. So these truths are really like what one layer, many layers beyond the truths that are discussed in skeptics, like the truth of evolution or whatever. Like these are like these scientific truths are kind of like so after a while, like uh, they are kind of boring, right? Like you have still you can believe in all the right scientific theories, but really deeply suffer,
Right.
and people notice that. And
Okay.
what I have I have generally noticed is that there is this very good attitude in the skeptic atheist community, which is the seeking for the truth or kind of like questioning everything, even though it kind of makes them suffer for a while. But for many of them, that kind of like that attitude will is like a feedback loop. It kind of directs them back to the right path, and maybe yeah, it kind of like the time is varied. Like some people it's sooner, some later, but as long as you actually have the real scientific attitude, I think you will apply that to your own inner experience
Mm-hmm.
after a while, and then you can actually like experience like a science experience with your own mind, with your own experience, and see what works, what doesn't. And I actually see more hope in that community now
Hmm.
than religious community. It's kind of like you have for people who are strongly religious. old ideas that are not like investigated properly, or they have to kind of first like remove those, kind of get this empty, and then maybe they, you know, find the correct path. So also that's my experience with the skeptics. Long answer to a short question.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I agree that there's a lot of good definitely in that community. You couldn't call the Buddha exactly a skeptic, but skepticism was a part of what led him to find the truth. I mean, I think the problem is that if skepticism is the goal, see, it becomes the goal, right? Where people, and then you've got this case of like in the Buddhist time, there were these teachers who wouldn't believe anything, even if they had proof in front of them, or you know, evidence, overwhelming evidence. So it's just a question of where your skepticism leads you. Does it become just, I'm the skeptic? You know, I mean, what the heck? What good is it to be a skeptic? You know, the point of being a skeptic is to avoid falsehood, to avoid false reasoning, right? But what about right reasoning? Some people believe, and then there's the idea that people believe truth is not something you can know for certain, right? We can only disprove a theory, we can't prove it, which is somewhat, I would say, antithetical to, or contradicted by Buddhism, which does claim to have a means of proving things, at least to yourself.
Yeah. So that at least to yourself, I think, is a crucial thing.
Right.
And I agree. Like the problem is the identification with being a skeptic. When you become a skeptic, or you become everything, you become an atheist.
Yeah, it's I, it's ego.
Then, like you solidify that to yourself. You say, okay, I'm a skeptic. So therefore, even if I see the truth in my experience, I shouldn't believe it, because I should just. So like,
I'm curious, in that vein, I'm curious about this woman who said why atheists are angry. And I bet it was hard for her to ever admit that anger is probably not the answer. Did she ever come around to admitting that anger is not a good thing?
So I haven't followed her posts really after, like the first two initial posts and a podcast I heard from her, and there were like maybe 3 months after she did an MBSR course. Right. I don't know what has developed since then. Yeah, it's kind of like also hard for people to change their positions publicly right away. Sure. You know, it depends how courageous you are, but I wouldn't be surprised if she changed it, or she had changed it, or changed it in future. Because I think her attitude towards it seemed very right when she was talking about it. But I don't know what happened since then.
What about, you said you're getting back into the MBSR, which I think is awesome. But we've talked before about their view of ethics. So getting back to this idea of ethics, what are some of your thoughts on that? Because I know you told me the story about going to a meditation course and having a meditation teacher come, and then there was a party afterwards and people were drinking alcohol, and you're thinking,
Yeah. So so that the MBSR program is also kind of like a positive thing, which is actually neutral. It really depends on who is the teacher, right. And that's kind of why I actually jumped in. So the program obviously doesn't tell that a teacher should drink after the course is finished. So you can drink or not drink. So
He wasn't an MBS, or that wasn't an MBS. We were talking about something else, right?
yeah, but like mm, it's like mm, there were MBSR teachers who drank,
Okay.
and they probably like not. Uh, the general feeling I see is that they are not strictly against it. But sometimes I talk about it positively, actually, about drinking after being stressed out. But yeah, so but again, like it depends on what you
What you do with it?
manifest as a person. So if a teacher who follows the ethics uh, has a stronger presence, kinder presence, uh, I think I think people would notice it in the class and take the words of those people more seriously. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's nothing in the MBSR curriculum about any of the precepts, like no ethical precepts at all, or sense of ethics, or
Uh,
sense it's important.
uh, the nothing is strictly that, as I remember. The only kind of like very hidden, like it's like a hidden agenda really in the program is
Right. Okay.
you when people talk about their meditation experience and what they have done recently or before that, or what they were thinking about, and like so some teachers might actually like kind of like very indirectly
Mm-hmm.
lead the student to like think like
So could
well,
during a meditation course, could someone come drunk? I mean, what is the cutoff?
no, so the 8 week standard course has
Mm.
only one day of mindfulness, which is silent. So there is no meditation retreat for the MBSR courses.
Okay.
There are ex, like compressed courses that are offered in like 5 days. They teach the like, and it is in a meditation retreat format, even though it is not completely silent. So people like it's like having back and forth like meditation like MBSR classes in 5 or 6 days.
Mm.
And in those courses, no, it's prohibited.
Mm.
And I have actually noticed mm, talking about precepts in the beginning, like
Okay. But yeah, that's another thing is they don't normally have courses. So, but you can, as an MBSR teacher, you can hold your own courses, right?
uh,
Your
like meditation course.
Yeah. I mean, would you do a 1, 2, 3 day course with people?
Uh, you can do 5 day. You can do whatever course you want, but you can call it MBSR as long as it follows a standard.
Something like a 5 day course. Well, that's cool. Hmm. Okay. Well, we have one question here, so maybe we can ask you a question. Hey, Robin, you want to be our question asker? Pull you into the conversation.
Sure. I started meditation after reading Sam Harris also and listening to videos from Harris, Dawkins, Hitchens, Dennett, etc. After meditation, I changed my view of these people and find them to be quite non-compassionate. What is your view on militant and militant atheism?
Mhm. So um, there is a very big difference between these people, specifically Hitchens, Harris, Dawkins, in terms of what we see through what they have in common is atheism, but
Right, they are quite different.
they are quite different in terms of everything else. Essentially, but militant atheism, in terms of like being compassionate, I actually think they are compassionate people, even though they might some of them might hold wrong. I think so. So it comes from ignorance, not out of hatred. That's what I feel for many of them. But the, so they become angry by the injustice they perceive exists in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, but I do think they are compassionate people. They genuinely want to help, but they kind of cause pain.
But you could really recognize that Harris is really the only one who's doing any meditation. You can sort of see that from them all, right?
Yes,
I don't get a sense from any of the others that they have.
no.
I don't know about Dennett. Dennett seems like a quiet, sort of nice sort of guy, but he's got some weird views from our point of view.
Yeah.
So about Sam Harris particularly, I was talking about, someone said we should get him on this show, but I said, first of all, I don't think he'd be that interested, but I feel like he's kind of made conscious effort. It feels like he's kind of been bullied into making conscious effort to distance himself from us and from people like me, say, who is obviously a religious person.
Mm-hmm. So he recently had two really long podcasts with a very famous meditation teacher on his blog. I don't have the name, but he's a Buddhist meditation teacher.
Oh, he has done. Okay.
Yeah.
How did that go?
And that, like, he actually, it was a very respectful conversation. That teacher was Sam Harris' teacher at some point as well.
Okay.
Sam Harris really talked with him with very too much respect. Almost like I would say like he was talking as a student of his. And
wow. Okay.
At the beginning, he also mentioned that if he wants to not talk about Buddhism or Buddhist ideas in general, the conversation becomes very awkward and kind of like he has to like put a sentence in order to describe one word idea. So it was a conversation on Buddhism.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, I'd kind of gotten an impression from. That's good to hear. I mean, that was my concern, that he was perhaps sort of, compromising his own self just to fit in with, the clique, the people who look skeptically at. I mean, I guess, is he a materialist?
Materialist? No.
He's not a materialist. I thought that maybe he was trying to be a materialist, or he had written stuff about materialism.
Yeah, like I think he maybe like he has a different. I haven't remember him like talking about materialism specifically, but he really endorses, or I think understands the mind and consciousness.
He's also pro guns or something. Did you read that article about he thinks people should have guns and defend themselves and be ready to shoot invaders into their homes? I guess that's a little bit off track.
Yeah, I haven't read those articles, but he has his own ideas, which I disagree. Some of them I disagree. Some of them I guess. Some of them I think he has actually like put a lot of thought and analysis. And, so because kind of like again, like as long as you hold something to, like you understand the truth of something for yourself, that's that's acceptable. But as soon as you start to talk about policy or talk about community of people, you can't rely so mainly on your own experience. You're talking about a very complicated network of individuals who are on very different spectrum.
But you got to give it to the guy. It's clear that he's got a sharp mind. I mean, he's the one who, of all those guys, he's the one who really impressed me. And I think it'd be like that no matter who I was. I mean, he's, in my mind, the most impressive. The other's interesting. I mean, I read some of Christopher Hitchens' stuff, and he's quite something to read. Dawkins is, I guess, also quite smart. But Sam Harris is just such a writer and such clarity of mind in the things he says. His ability to debate, his ability to sort out arguments is impressive, which, lends itself to the idea that he is probably doing some meditation, you'd think.
And his compassion towards Muslims and ex-Muslims and the people from the Middle East or Islamic countries.
He gets a lot of it right?
He gets it, like, in my opinion, like, really right. And it's so refreshing to hear the right argument from a person who is not from that background.
Where everyone else is calling him racist. And
it's very unfortunate, and it's so difficult to try to explain this to what I call the liberal left.
What he calls the liberal left as well.
I think they are liberals, but they are really. This is again like the concept of they call it racism of lower expectations.
Okay.
It's like because you are from a Muslim country, you obviously don't understand well, so we give it to you. So you can you can have really, really stupid beliefs because you are a brown person. So sometimes not challenging people. Sometimes having
challenge people's beliefs is to
is racist.
Not recognize that. I mean, there's something there. Is not recognize that they were brainwashed, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't challenge them on it and shouldn't help them like everyone else to overcome. I mean, I guess another thing people are afraid of is people like they would accuse people like Sam Harris of pushing their own, not being sensitive to these people's plight. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, saying this idea of it's right for them. We can't judge people for wearing these making their women wear these. It's just it's their culture, and who are we to say? I mean, that's kind of rubbish.
So unjust towards people who live in those countries. People who are imagine a woman that is forced to wear hijab by his choice in a country like Iran. Yeah. So inside the country, she has to fight with the religious authorities. She has no chance. They have all the power and police and military and everything. And she has no chance to get any help from outside the country because, like in the West, or in general, if I want to simplify in the U.S., so she has two audiences. One is redneck racist Republicans, and one the liberals who actually want to be not racist but take the side of the Islamists. So she doesn't have any chance. She has no help, and that's why like nothing is really changing because like no one understands the situation, and anyone who wants to help are like people who are more compassionate and who are mostly on the liberal side, help the wrong people.
Yep. I get that. They're afraid of they're not able to separate a bad idea, as Sam Harris keeps reminding us, from a person. We're allowed to challenge. We have to challenge. We cannot let bad ideas stand. A bad idea is perfectly, within the realm of proper debate. We should criticize ideas. We should be able, and I've always had to deal with that in terms of culture. When I go to Buddhist countries, well, they've got a lot of silly cultures as well. I mean, things that I, as an outsider, find silly. And there's something there, cultural sensitivity.
Mhm.
It's true that Westerners go to these countries and we walk all over people's cultures. We're insensitive to their cultures to some extent. That's a problem. There are cultures that are actually beautiful and beneficial. Buddhist cultures, in particular, like a lot of these ceremonies that we do. Westerners come to Buddhist countries and they say, look at these people brainwashed into doing all these things that's not Buddhism. I was just reading, some guy tried to post, Robin, did you see that on Stack Exchange today? Just tonight, the -5, somebody got a negative, I think it's our first 5 downvotes for a question. And it was kind of a question, except that he then posted all of his or his teachers or whoever, some guy's YouTube links as part of the question. So I'm curious. I went over to this guy. There's this guy on YouTube who's telling us what is the real Buddhism, and he said, he quoted some scholar as saying, everything today, everything that's practiced today is, as Buddhism, is everything that Buddhism isn't. Something like that. And so we get this idea, and sure, a lot of I would say it's too much ceremony as well. Today we went to, it was funny, today we went to a funeral, and let's see how far off track we can get, right? So today I went to a funeral, and this is this 3-day, it's kind of ridiculous. We went, this is an epic, I've told you about this 3 nights in a row. First night we went to their house. Second night we went to the funeral hall. Today we actually we went to the cremation hall, and it's kind of funny how pragmatic we end up being when things are right. Originally they were going to do 3 times around the funeral hall, 3 times around the crematorium, and so we started walking. We're doing walking around the funeral hall counterclockwise, and I whispered to the monk beside me, "Why are we doing this again?" Because the sun's beating down, and he said, "Good karma." I just wanted to, face palm. Good karma walking around. I mean, actually, when I thought about it, I said, okay, there's something to that, where these guys who are suffering from hangovers from the night before, we make them walk around in the hot sun. It's kind of a good thing. I didn't feel comfortable as a monk because, I mean, this isn't why I became a monk, to walk these lay people with a coffin around the crematorium. If they want to do it, fine. It's something we could advise them to do. Well, we sit and meditate or something. But, whatever. No, I mean, the problem with it is how it looks. It appears that we are somehow priests and we are obliged to do these things. But in the end, we got 1 time around, and the head monk goes, okay, 1 time's enough. Because it's hot. And they're like, oh, and we don't want to do it 3 times? It's like, no, 1 is enough, 1 is enough. So we went right into the crematorium after 1 round. So yes, some of it's way too much. It's over the top, I agree. And some is actually, in that case, I would argue is kind of inappropriate. But ceremony in and of itself is not, and culture in and of itself is not necessarily. It can be useful to cultivate wholesome habits. Like, take the 5 times prayer that Muslim people have to do. I mean, besides what they're saying, which most of them don't have a clue what they're saying anyway, it's kind of meditative. I mean, what would you say about that practice?
Yeah, like this thing had my attitude towards this prayer practice of Muslims, and a lot of the traditions in Islam has changed by meditation. So I used to see only the negative side of it, but now I see the positive side. So there is, like, this prayer practice, what gives you is first discipline.
Yeah, right.
It's very, like, since young age, a practicing Muslim wakes up before dawn every morning, prays, which is kind of like it is a meditative practice, and he does it 5 times a day in different times. So he keeps track of time, and what he lets go of the busyness of the day, does something else in his own quiet or with the community, and on regular schedules. So it gives you a lot of inner strength, a lot of discipline, and more concentration, more calm, really.
Right.
So it all depends on like what in this fertile ground, what is grown. So you can grow a hatred towards non-Muslims, which is unfortunately a case for many preachers. It's more like a compassion towards your own group, like in-group compassion and complete hatred towards everybody else. And that's kind of like what makes them close to each other. There is a very strong bond between people in the Muslim community. They really see each other as brothers and sisters. They help each other.
Right.
But at the same time, they not most of them, not all of them, but many of them, like they Jews a lot.
Yeah.
With the non-Muslims alliance. It's kind of like unfortunately, like this is costing a lot. This wrong teachings that have been in Quran since thousands of years ago are kind of like biting, like those like negative ones.
I should probably, I mean, we could talk for hours here, but I should probably, let's get through a few of these questions, and we'll try to keep these things at around an hour. So,
yeah.
Robin, do we have another question out there?
We do, yes. How do you know what is knowledge and what is delusion, especially in meditation? What if it is weaving a dream together with whatever ingredients arise in the meditation experience, interpretation, science, teachings, practices, and it does that imperceptibly behind a veil of pretended objectivity?
Did you get that?
I think Bante is better suited to answer this question.
Pass the buck, right?
Yeah.
I think does that classify as a brain hurts question? Let me see. Okay, well, he's talking about how do you know what is truth, right?
Yes.
How do you know that what you are seeing is true, and what can we truly know? You know, what is knowledge from a Buddhist point of view? Do you have anything to say on that?
In my opinion, that truth can be known, but you can't know it. So the question of how do you know something is true or not, I think once this question is asked, that means you don't know. If you know, you know. So you don't need a mental, or you don't need to. You don't need to think about it to know if it is true or not. It is known if it is true. So,
but I guess that's the point. Is we do take it to be that you can know things. I mean, it's like this question. People question everything because of the premise of the Matrix. Really, I mean, the Matrix, the movie. I guess it was based on this theory of the brain in the vat, right?
mm-hmm.
How do we know we're not a brain in the vat? So therefore, how can we truly know anything? But Buddhism would cut under that, right? And we would say, regardless of what you're seeing, you do know that it's seeing, right? Regardless of what you are hearing, whether it's from your ears or from just the machine that you're hooked up to in this vat of fluid, there's still an experience, You know, experience can be known, and the way experience works can be known as well. Yeah, I mean the mechanisms. Why? It was an interesting sort of in my mind to be able to separate and to clarify this as a position, the difference between the problem that science has, as with dualism, is in trying to explain why it works that way, you know, and how is it that reality works that way. I mean, it's simple to say it's all body, but that doesn't work. It's you've left out a variable. You've got a remainder. You've got consciousness, which materialism is still unable to explain in any meaningful way. It just, you know, marginalizes it, minimalizes it, pretends it isn't there, and it's become the hard problem. It's only hard if you know, you take a materialist stance. The problem of consciousness, if consciousness is the base of reality, which it is the most basic aspect of everything, you know. I mean, it's a paradigm. That's how you look at it. But from our point of view, there's very little that you can know as science goes, right? You can't know why it works that way. I don't think. I think that was the key for me, is to realizing that's the point. You can't know that. You may never be possible to know why the body and the mind work the way they do. Why experience is causal. Why does one thing cause another? How does that causal relationship work? But it's pointless, because if it does work that way, who cares why it works that way? I mean, what use is it to for you to know why? That question may be totally outside of reality. Anyway.
I was just thinking as we were talking that maybe the question was asked in the light of our discussion before, which was about culture and racism and that type of thing. And for those, I think they should be held really lightly. Like, these are only opinions. I don't know if they are true or not. But at this point, I have this opinion, but I have not. You know, like that might completely change, and I have understood that don't really take those seriously. Even though like I talk about it compassionately, as I feel they're correct, but again, lightly.
Well, speaking of compassion, our next question is, do you feel compassion for corrupt politicians?
For correct politicians?
Corrupt.
For compassion for corrupt politicians.
Yes.
It's hard for me, especially for the Iranian politicians, but I have found it to become a lot more easier, more and more with more practice. It's kind of like the time that it takes from anger to compassion is reducing. It's you know, like, it's just a conditioning that happens. Like, it's they are not a self at the end. Like, we are not. So. You know, like,
and the other part of the question is, what do you think we should do to stop them?
who?
What should we do to stop them, the corrupt politicians? Should we do anything to stop them?
I wish I knew. Stop them. I think it's really not in our power at the end. It's we kind of just have to be present. I think that we can't do anything more than that, because the problem are not really, the root of the problem are not corrupt politicians. It's actually, a lot of times it's just a blame game, feeling like right about what we are doing, and on corrupt politicians. It's true, a lot of them are corrupt, but if we had a word world with no politician, like there would still be suffering, there would still be power, injustice. But
Hmm.
I don't think it's a very important cause to try to happen.
Thank you. I think we have another question too. How would meditation work for an actual Muslim believer?
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting because I have many questions on my YouTube channel from Muslim believers, and so so far I have, like I said, I have tried to present it only as a mental practice, which has nothing to do against their beliefs, and I kind of see no way of going beyond that before or until or if a real political shift happens in Iran, because it's kind of dangerous for both them and me. So how it works is this: they the same as others. They can practice meditation, but uh, I don't try to mm, disprove them for any of the beliefs they hold at the moment. And I don't think it's very necessary. Maybe because most people who come to this, they are Muslims who are really good people, good people who want to find the truth. So they and I think if they stick with the practice, they will at its time.
What is I've got a question, maybe just to wrap up. What is the best feedback you've gotten from your videos? You have an example of something that really made you say, wow, this is worth doing?
Yeah, I have people who have very strong practice.
Mm.
It's very encouraging, and yeah, I feel very happy when they ask questions. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, one of them, I really wanted him to go to Thailand or somewhere to do a course, because it's just so far you can go without without an intensive course. But that's what partly motivates me in politics. Yeah, it's just to kind of like maybe try to change the atmosphere a little bit more, so uh, it's easier, or it becomes possible to do a meditation retreat without fearing anything.
I couldn't believe that you are not changing. You couldn't convince me that you are not changing the atmosphere there. I think 100% sure it's got to be helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful. Like, but I mean, I don't know what the results will be.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what you're saying. I can't. All I have to go by is that I know you're a good meditator. But maybe people want to check out your channel. Here, I'll put the link to it. And your first video that I helped you make, 16,000 views. So you're doing something right.
Yeah, it's good. Like
That's awesome.
some people mentioned. Actually, I had somebody ask me yesterday. Like when people search meditation in Farsi, type meditation in Farsi, it's the first thing that comes up now, which
Awesome.
makes me very glad, because there used to be a lot of really wrong teachings on meditation in Farsi.
Okay, well, Ali, thank you for being with us tonight. I
Thanks
think
a
this was
pleasure to
awesome time. Our first guest on Sirimangalo International. Sirimangalo International Presents. This is what we're calling it.
I tried to put one of those labels under you to identify you, but it ended up going under my face instead, so that didn't work. So we're very new at this. So
Yeah, we may want to. Your microphone wasn't the best, so we may want to try to um, do some technical work beforehand. So make sure that guests have a proper mic. As sounds like people were having a bit of trouble hearing you, but it worked out.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. We got a good audience, and appreciate it. Thank you, Robin, for taking part.
Oh, thank you, Bante. Thank you, Ali. This was very nice.
Tomorrow, what's up? Tomorrow we're moving into the new building. I mean, we already are moving in, right? But tomorrow, Robin will be here in the evening, and we'll be getting a desk, a bookshelf, and a filing
The
cabinet.
file cabinet. Yes.
And then Sunday we'll move some more stuff. Monday we're having our first meeting of the McMaster Buddhism Association. There's a bunch of people. We've got an exec group on Facebook, and we'll be holding a meeting at the new location. And then Tuesday I begin classes, and Tuesday in the morning they come to put internet in. So I've got a class at 10:30. So hopefully that doesn't conflict. You won't be here on Tuesday, will you, Robin?
No, I have to head back on Monday.
I have to find someone who can hang out at 10:30. Maybe someone from the Buddhism Association will come by the house at 10:30 in case they haven't come by then. But yeah, internet's moving, and that means Tuesday will probably be my first night there. I guess, yeah, definitely. Maybe Monday will be my first night. Maybe Tuesday. Yeah, Monday will probably. Monday, my first night staying at the new monastery.
So you'll probably have to skip the broadcast on Monday night, I'm thinking, if
Oh, right, that's right.
if there's no internet.
I can do audio easily. I can just turn on the 3G and
Oh, that's right.
audio. So let's just do that then. We'll skip YouTube for one night.
We'll have a retro night with the audio live stream only.
Retro night. And Wednesday we have Clubs Fest. So what it means is the McMaster Buddhism Association is up and coming. And that should help us internationally as well, because we'll have more of a community here. And hopefully in the future that will mean we can do more with our organization, because I'll be working with the McMaster Buddhism Association. Anyway, Sunday we have Pali and Visuddhimagga. Get in touch with Robin if you want instructions on how to get involved with that. And our volunteer meeting will be at 12. So volunteer meeting 12 o'clock on Sunday. Some of you may have gotten the newsletter. Did we mention the volunteer meeting in the newsletter?
Yes, in the newsletter I tried to link everything that you're involved in.
Okay.
Volunteer group, classes, everything I could think of.
If you're not on our newsletter, let's see. How do you get on it? I think it's newsletter. Here we are. Info newsletter. To subscribe, I think there's another way to subscribe, but you can go to this link. I think it's Mailman. So however Mailman works, if people know how Mailman works, you can use. I think it's if you write an email to newsletter-subscribe@sirimangalo.org. But you can also go here to subscribe if you want to get on our newsletter. It's just letting you know what we're doing. It's up to Robin and the crew how often they're going to use it. But yeah, then we have a volunteer mailing list, and I'm going to suggest on Sunday we start using that as well. And then at 12 o'clock the meeting, 1 o'clock
Yes.
Visuddhimagga, 2 o'clock-ish Pali.
Busy day. Moving before, moving after.
It's going to be a busy year. And yeah, and another announcement, chapter 4 of my new book is out. But one thing I want to say about the book, and probably should put up on the website, is that it's for, well, it's for you guys actually. It's for people who are actually meditating. So if you're interested in the things I have to say about meditation, you can go to it doesn't work, does it? Hey, where'd it go? It's not there. Well, you can go to my Facebook page, and yeah, there's a link on my Facebook page, so let's go there. Posts. Here we are. To go to this page, which you can't find on the website yet, but it's here. This page has a list of the chapters as far as they stand so far.
And the one I linked is the brand new chapter that you're looking for some editing, right? Or grammatical editing or things like that.
Yeah. Brenda says, why are there so many semicolons? Because I like semicolons. When I was in high school, my grade 11 English teacher said the same thing. She said, I made a note of all the semicolons you use, but I don't really, I can't really say that it's wrong.
Semicolons are great. You know what's awful are exclamation points. People that I work with that are really stressed out, they use so many exclamation points. They put like 7 or 8 after sentences.
I'm so fond of semicolons because no one ever uses them. I mean, what is it there for if not to use? And
they're wonderful. It's the exclamation points that show how stressed out you are. I can't even use an exclamation point anymore.
Well, I do use them sometimes now sparingly. I always see online, it's always a toss-up of whether to use the exclamation mark or not use the, because if you use just a period, you sound kind of like, I don't know, boring. Not boring, but like, geez, why are you serious? You sound serious. You know, if I say, great job, everyone, period. Like, great job.
Might as well put a sad face there.
Yes, it's either a smiley face or it's an exclamation mark. Exclamation mark, and I was like, whoa, what's this monk doing exclamation mark?
But if you're doing 7 or 8 of them, you really need to meditate.
Yes, more than one. I'm not at that level personally. For me, one exclamation mark sparingly is my limit. I agree with you.
Really have to think about it.
Drew says my sequel is not going to be as good as the original. Well, it's different. The second book is definitely different. It's I still, it's all mostly trying to just parrot what I've been taught, so that it doesn't come across as me and mine, some with my flavor in it. But
I think sequels are never as good as the original when people are just trying to make a lot of money off a movie. And this might be a little different.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, a lot of the information I'm giving is out there already. Some of it's not, and the reason for me to do it is that it's a lot of the information that's out there is somewhat culturally biased or dated or steeped, and so bringing it all together simpler is the goal here, and to show a roadmap, to show a sequence, how the stages are really linked together. But I don't know. I mean, it might be useless, but my feeling is that if you're actually serious about meditation, you should find something useful about this second book. Anyway, so it's out there. Tell me what you think of it. Okay, then good night to all. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you all in the future.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night.